is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Mark, and welcome to my most punk episode ever. I'm pleased to welcome Phil Marcade of The Senders. They have a new double album out called All Killer No Filler, and it chronicles, as this episode attempts to do, the band's nearly continuous history from 1977 to 2001. But we go even farther back. Phil talks about moving to the U.S. from France when he was a kid, and there's a lot of great stories around forming the Senders, like why Phil moved from drums to vocals, and how trying not to sound punk made them even more punk. There's also a reason the band chose their name, but it wasn't their first choice. Their first was definitely different, but apparently not unique enough. Phil talks about the very brief period of time when Johnny Thunders was in the band, and how he met Wayne Kramer of the MC5. And I float the possibility that the Senders influenced Led Zeppelin. Pick up the album wherever you get music, through Bandcamp or streaming. Check out their social media, especially Facebook. And you can support us with a cup of coffee at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. Buy merch with our logo at performanceanx.threadless.com. And now, ads aside, enjoy our most punk show yet with Phil Marcade of The Senders on Performance Anxiety, part of the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Okay. Hi, this is Phil Marcade from The Senders. The band, The Senders, from New York. We just had a new double LP ad called All Killer No Filler. And you're on Performance Anxiety. Did I say the name of the show? Okay? Performance Anxiety. It's such a great name. You must be Mark.
Yes, sir.
You.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Great. It must be, where are you? It must be morning for you.
It is. I'm in Winchester, Virginia, so I'm about 75 miles west of Washington, D.C.
Cool.
So,
I'm in Italy, so it's like mid-afternoon for me, 3 p.m.
So we can both basically be having a nice cup of coffee right about now.
I'm still having mine, too.
Excellent. Well,
good morning.
And good afternoon. What I like to do is find out a little of the history of my guests, as well as what they're up to now. So I guess where I like to start off normally is to find out what got you into music in the first place. What music inspired you to pursue it as a career, and what were you listening to that really drew you into music?
All right. Well, I grew up in France. I'm French. I came to the States when I was 17 to spend 2 months in the summer. I ended up staying 40 years. Yeah.
Wow.
After a few years there, at first I lived in Boston, then I lived in New York. I met a lot of people on the music scene, on the beginning of the punk scene, and started a band called The Senders with a couple of friends I met in New York. First, I played drums, then I became the singer, and we went on to play for 25 years, from 77 to 2001. So that's my story.
All right. Well, great having you on. Thank you. So what drew you to punk? Because the Senders were an early band in the punk scene.
Well, we didn't think we were right in that scene, but we didn't think we were punk at all. We were really into 50s rhythm and blues. People like Little Richard, and then all the blues guys like Howlin' Wolf and all that. We were really into that, and we were record collectors and collecting old records. And but we were right in the middle of the punk scene, and we were pretty new at playing music, so we tried not to be punk, but the way it turned out, it sounded completely punk, and. But we didn't do it on purpose. We tried not to, actually, but we couldn't help it. And so it was kind of like not punk rock, but we called it punk blues. Was the only difference. And so, yeah, we were in the middle, and all our friends were people like Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers and Blondie and the Ramones. So we were in that scene, but we were not really influenced by the punk sound, more like the 50s rock and roll sound.
So not trying to be punk, actually made you even more punk.
In a way, yes. In retrospect, we were totally, at least we didn't try to join the bandwagon of the punk scene. We tried to avoid it. So I guess it was totally spontaneous and honest because that's just the way we played. So the same way as, in a way, as rockabilly started with guys who play country music trying to copy black rhythm and blues. And so we tried to copy it, but it came out the best we could, but that's still the way we played.
So what made you switch from drumming to singing?
Everybody was saying the band is the frontman. And we were all singing songs, the guitar player, the bass player, me behind the drums. And everybody, including the band members, starting to say, you should stop drumming and just be in front because you have good charisma and we need a frontman. So I thought, all right, I'll try. And being French, I thought it was just completely absurd that I would be the singer because I had a French accent. And but as soon as I tried, I loved it. And I didn't get booed off the stage, which was encouraging. So I kept doing it for 25 years.
And your voice, you've got that snarl that works so perfectly with punk. So it was a great fit. Hey!
Friends, what he's got to say. Just one more seat, I'm gonna see if someone's got something for me.
Well, yeah, that was just too many cigarettes and maybe whiskey.
How did you guys come up with the name The Senders? Is there anything behind that, any meaning behind it, or was it just a cool sounding name?
No, not at all. Actually, we didn't know what to call ourselves. We first called ourselves Yakety Yak, and then find out before we did even our first gig, there was already another band called Yakety Yak.
Really?
So we tried to find another band, and I looked in the phone book and just opened any page, and that name Sender, it was Joe Sender, Bob Sender, and I like it because it was very 50s, like Return to Sender, or Little Richard song where it says she's a solid sender. They use that expression a lot. So I thought it was a good name. Everybody liked it, so we took that.
That's really cool.
We wanted a name that didn't really mean anything. So nobody would take it like Yakety Yak.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got you.
No. I said that's perfect. That's a great story for the name of it. It's awesome. I really haven't heard anything like that. There's actually a connection, but it was accidental almost.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but we had to have a name, so that was the hardest part of anything. Just find a name for the band.
How soon after you moved from France to the U.S. were you playing in bands? I mean, was it immediate?
5 years. I came to the States in 72, and I joined the band we started in 76. About 4 years, yeah.
Okay. Was that the Senders? Was the Senders your first band?
Yes.
Wow.
I played drums in a little band in school, with friends when I was a kid in France. But that was my first professional band, yeah.
Wow. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Hey, everybody. I've got a great sponsor that I want to talk to you about. For a long time, I wondered if CBD was something that might benefit me, but I had no idea how to find out. I didn't know what products were available, what companies were reputable, and really even what questions to ask to get the answers I needed. That's why I'm so glad I found Pure Spectrum CBD. They helped me discover what CBD could do for me. They were awesome at determining what my needs were, and they helped me find a starting point. I've started with the tincture and the isolate, but there's also gummies, topicals, mints, and a lot more. Pure Spectrum not only has CBD products for wellness, they also have them for fitness and recovery. There's even CBD for your pets. The website has a ton of information and chat options are available. And all their products are third-party tested and the results are available right on their website. So go to purespectrumcbd.com to do your own research. And when you check out, use code PerformanceANX for 15% off your order. Check them out on Instagram at Pure Spectrum Hemp and subscribe to their email list for sales, new products, and updates. Pure Spectrum, refined phytocannabinoid wellness products for all lifestyles. Now, okay, so the new album is coming out, and it's a kind of a retrospective from 77 to 2001. Was the band active that entire time, or were there times where you guys took a hiatus?
Well, we stopped a bit in 83 for about 6 months because our original bass player, who I got the band together with, his name is Steve Shevlin, he became completely deaf. First partly, then completely. So he became a teacher of sign language for deaf kids. And
Wow.
So we stopped for a little while. We didn't want to continue without him. I made another band called the Backbones. And then we got an offer to do to take part of a Christmas record. And the guy who called me, I told him, well, the Senders don't exist anymore. We don't have a bass player anymore. And he said, well, can you get a replacement and just record that one Christmas song for that compilation? It'd be great. So we did, and we got a new bass player. And we were so happy to play again that we just went on, and that went on from 83 to 2001.
Wow. Oh, that is amazing. But I think what kind of blows me away is the fact that the band was active for so long, but there's only 3 full-length albums, 1 mini album, which is the 7-song super single, and then the Christmas release. So there's very little actual recorded history of the band. Was that on purpose? I mean, did you guys just avoid major labels, or did you?
No, we didn't exactly avoid it, but we didn't exactly look for it either.
Okay.
We were so busy playing gigs and so happy with our following in New York that months and years went on, and we didn't once thought, hey, we should make a record, and get signed by a record company. Wow. We quickly gave up on that idea. So I'm really happy that there is now this compilation coming out, because indeed we didn't do much recording, and we did a lot of demos that never came out, that finally saw the light of day, and so I'm really glad about that.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about this compilation is that it is, despite you guys not thinking you were punk or trying to be punk, and exactly a perfect example of what punk was in the beginning, at least. It's not a genre of music like it became in the 90s and all, where it had a specific sound. It really was more of an attitude with so many different styles of music in it. And that's very evident on this compilation.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. And I totally agree that at the beginning of the punk scene in New York, nobody knew whatever punk was. Everybody was very different. The only thing they had in common, all this band, was a couple of details, like short hair was like the end of the very long hair thing, and no drum solo that lasted 20 minutes. But apart from that, everybody was playing a completely different trip. Like Ted Blondie or the Ramones, very different band, or like Mick DeVille and the Dead Boys, completely different. And I think the style crystallized more in England and the look more in New York at first, but the sound was very varied and very, there was no punk sound exactly,
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was born in 73, so I missed the first wave of punk and on. So to me, it was when punk broke in the 90s, and it had that sound of very homogenous sound, because everybody started to basically sound the same. So I never got into early punk until recently, and it's because of bands like the Senders, where you guys have a sound that's considered punk, but it's so different. Like you said, yours is more based in the rockabilly sound, in the 50s sound, which I love.
I totally agree with you, and I think that already there was a bit of the seed planted in the way of that. This came out around 75, 76. Bands were very pretentious. There was a lot of, virtuoso stuff going on. Groups like Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, all that. And so all those bands, although they had different style, brought back the 3-minute formula, a very short, fast songs. And we were more retro in that 50s style. Some other bands were more modern, but everybody kept the songs very short. And so that kind of started that old style, Everybody could do it.
Yeah, exactly. You could just pick up a guitar and play it.
You didn't have to be exactly, yes.
Okay, so we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. I was listening to the retrospective here, and something hit me, and I want to ask you this because this is something I've heard for years and years. I grew up, I was a huge fan of Led Zeppelin, and I've heard for years that they wrote the song Wearing and Tearing as their attempt to write a punk song. And as I was listening to All Killer, No Filler, the song No More Foolin', it hit me that sounds like the template Led Zeppelin used to write Wearing and Tearing. It sounds so familiar, but it came out obviously, before Wearing and Tearing. And it's well known that Led Zeppelin said they wrote that song to try to see if they could write a punk song. I wonder if that's the song that they heard and used as a template.
We got to look into that.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the Senders really influenced Led Zeppelin.
I think they did. So you heard it here. Performance anxiety, making that claim. So
Yes.
So Johnny Thunders, the legendary Johnny Thunders, is a part of this album, and he, for a very brief time, was a part of the Senders. How did that happen? How did you meet Johnny and get him to play with you guys for a little bit?
I've been friends with Johnny Thunders since my days in Boston. I met him in 74 when he was still in the New York Dolls.
Okay.
We kind of became friends. And then I saw him again in New York. And we were very good friends. And when the Senders began, we had a guitar player from Mexico. His name is Jorge, and he quit the band. And in 78, we started looking for a new guitar player. And so for a couple of months, we had no guitar players at all.
Wow.
So Johnny, who was with the Heartbreakers at the time, offered us to do a bunch of gigs just for fun, to make some money, and where he would be Fender's guitar player.
Wow.
So we did. It was great. It was so much fun. And soon after, we met Bill Thompson, who became our guitar player for the rest of the. He was fabulous. But that's how we ended up doing this. We did 5 gigs with Johnny Thunders, and somebody in the audience taped the show, taped a couple of the shows, and it got back to me years later.
Wow.
And so that's that recording.
That is amazing. There's such a brief period of time that somebody so noteworthy was in the band and somebody decided to record it. That's amazing. There's is it 6 or 7 songs on the album with Johnny?
7 songs with Johnny Thunders. I'm sure glad somebody taped those shows because we had no idea and we didn't think of it.
Right.
And we regretted it. But somebody taped it and sent it to me, so that was fabulous.
That is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Senders!
the Senders having such little recorded output, and there's 30 something songs on the 2-album set. Was it difficult?
Well, there's 27 songs, and it also comes as a double CD set.
Yes.
And there's 4 bonus songs on the CD, so there's 31 songs on the CD and 27 on the vinyl.
Okay. So with the 27 to 31 tracks, depending on which format you get, was it difficult to pare it down to that with only 3 recorded albums?
Well, yeah, we had a lot of demos. When the record company Left for Dead got in touch with me, they asked me how many songs I could send them and to pick from that. So I started looking at compilations, I put on CDs years ago and sent them 80 songs. And
wow.
We together worked on picking, selecting the one that was going to be on the record, we all thought was the best stuff, and so that's how it worked.
It's a really great mix of stuff. I mean,
thank you.
Some of my favorites, I'll tell you which one of my favorite. Like When I Die, I'll Be a Ghost. Great song. That it's a bit of a slower tempo song. I wasn't really expecting that when it popped up.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Because honestly, going in and listening to it, it's really my first exposure to the Senders, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And it's The Living End is an amazing track, but I think my absolute favorite on the entire compilation is My Shiny Red Dress.
Really?
I love that song.
That's great. Thank you.
So how much of this was, or I mean, I don't know if you can tell right off the top of your head, how much of it is stuff from the 70s, 80s, and how much of it was from the later period?
Well, on the vinyl thing, there is in the sleeve with all the dates of all the recordings. And what we try to do is not go completely in chronological order, but mix the songs so they would follow each other good. So the first track is from 83, then there is 2 from 70, 77, 78, then it jumps right into the 90s, then it goes back a bit. It's all mixed up.
I love that. I think that's great. It's such a fresh way to hear them, especially for people who may be more familiar with the Senders' music than I am. It puts it into a different perspective, maybe. If you hear some different songs back to back from different periods.
That's great, and I was happy to see that over 25 years we didn't change our sound much.
No,
we always stuck to our guns.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say if a recording is from 78 or 98, or it's just good old rock and roll.
Yeah, and I love the slide guitar on some of the songs. That's another thing I was not quite expecting because of what I grew up with punk being. There was no slide guitar in it, so hearing it in the Senders, I was like, "This is amazing! This is not what I expected when I heard of punk rock."
Guitar player did play slide guitar great, and I love when he plays the slide. Yeah, great sound.
Out of the tracks of the 27 to 31, depending on your format, is a lot of it unreleased, or is it a mix? So
No.
I know that Johnny Thunder stuff is definitely unreleased, but since you had like three and a half full-length albums, is there a lot from the albums on there, or is it a lot of unreleased stuff?
No, just the Johnny Thunder's tracks, the 7 tracks with Johnny were never released anywhere before. But everything else was on very obscure album. 2 of them just came out in France, nowhere else.
Oh, wow.
The stuff is very hard to find. I mean, you can find copies of these songs, but it's pretty hard to find. But yeah, they were released before.
Wow, even
but
that
nobody knew.
that one of the things that was surprising to me again was the track with Wayne Kramer from the MC5, "Empty Heart." That's a long track too, and again, something I wasn't expecting with punk. A 7 minute long song.
7 minutes of it.
Yeah, that was really cool. How did that happen? How did you hook up with Wayne Kramer?
Well, we've been friends for a long time. In the late 70s, Johnny Thunders made a band with him called Gang War, and it was Johnny Thunders and Wayne Kramer, and I was their first drummer. They asked me to come in and play drums to do demos.
Wow.
And that's where I met Wayne. We stayed good friends. And this was our very last gig in 2001 at a club called Manitoba's. And Wayne just happened to pass by. So we invited him up on stage. And we knew the song Empty Heart because we saw the film of MC5 doing it, you know. So we said, hey, when do you want to play? Want to play Empty Heart, Rolling Stones? He said, yeah. So we did that. And, if a song would last 7 minutes, usually it would bore the hell out of me. But it's so great that it works, you know. He can play solos for 7 minutes and it's Wayne Kramer. You know?
Exactly. That was one of the happy surprises for me when I pulled up the track listing. I was like, this is crazy. Not only Wayne Kramer, but 7 minutes. It was just a huge surprise. So why release the album now? It's the last recordings were, like you said, it spans 77 to 2001, and it's coming out 2023. So there's a 22-year gap. What made you release the music now?
Well, if I wasn't approached to do it, I wouldn't, look for a record company to release it. What happened is that the guy who used to book bands at Mexican City, the club in New York, where we played a lot, his name is Peter Crowley. He produced that 7-song super single that we put out in 1980. It was a 7-song EP. And he wanted to do a reissue of it because it's impossible to find. And he knew the people at Left 4 Dead Records, and they started thinking of that idea to re-release the 7-song super single. That's when I was contacted by Left 4 Dead Records. They asked me if I was okay with it, and also if I wanted to add more songs. I said, oh yeah, sure. And so that's how it happened. And we started a project about a year ago. I'm amazed how much love they put into it, and every detail, everything. They're great people. So I was really happy that Left 4 Dead, did this project. That's wonderful.
Did you have the live music with Johnny Thunders for a long time before this came out? Have you been holding on to that, or was that something you were sent recently?
Yeah, rather recently.
Okay.
Just a couple of years.
Wow.
Some collectors sent it to me, and when his name is Jim. When Jim at Left 4 Dead Records talked to me, said, "Do you have anything that was never released before. And I said, now that you mention it, I happened to a cool thing. And so we both thought, wow, we got to put that on the compilation. That's great.
That is amazing. Are the tracks that are on there, is that all you have, or is there a few more lurking about maybe, or is that everything?
Yeah, there's a few more because the guy who taped a few shows.
Okay.
But we did the same songs. So there's a few more, but there's only those songs. So I took what sounded to me like the best version and used that.
Is everything like remixed and remastered?
No, it was probably taped on a cassette.
Okay. So that's pretty much straight from the audience sound.
Yeah, and the sound is not so bad. I mean,
no,
not so great either, but it's not so bad. And the guy who did the mastering kind of, brought up some richness into it and more bass and stuff. He did a nice job, so it sounds okay.
It sounds marvelous for compared to some of the other bootlegs that I have of other bands from that same era. I mean, the sound is so much better than a lot of the stuff from the late 70s to early 80s bootlegs that I've got from bands. I was really impressed.
Thank you.
So is there a social media presence for the band? Are you guys how are you trying to get the word out besides, my podcast here?
We're counting on you.
All right. I'm in.
I have a Facebook page. And so I announced the record on this. A lot of old friends. And from what I hear, it's doing pretty good. So it started off well.
It's a lot of punk. It's word of mouth. It's DIY kind of stuff then. So you're still in that punk ethos.
Totally. Yeah. And it's a limited edition anyway. There isn't thousands and thousands of them. So it's a very nice package too. Sort of a deluxe thing. Gatefold cover. Wow. Some of it is this black vinyl, but there's also purple splattered vinyl. It's a very nice object for collectors, but not made in a huge amount of them, just a small amount. So hopefully we'll sell them all. I hope for Left 4 Dead records.
Yeah, make them happy. So how can people find it? Where should they go to buy a copy?
Well, there is a what you call that, a Bandcamp, where you can order it. If you look at the senders in Google, Bandcamp. Also, if you look at Facebook, the senders, there's a public page with all the info about the record and how to order it and all from Left 4 Dead.
Oh, awesome. I know that we are, like I said, we were a little bit limited on time. So this is kind of a punk show because it's a little short and to the point.
Perfect.
So we're doing a punk version of the podcast. So, did I miss anything? I don't normally just go out and ask that, but is there anything that you want to get out? Any promotional thing or anything that I missed that you'd like to mention at this point?
No, I can't think of anything that you didn't mention. No, not really.
You see, the band started in the mid-70s. You influenced Led Zeppelin, and you can buy it on Bandcamp. That's all right. I think we got the important stuff down. So, Phil,
you can buy it straight from Led Zeppelin. Let's not to confuse everything.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for
Zeppelin in 77.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
I really do appreciate your time and sharing a cup of coffee with me and sharing this awesome album with me because it was eye-opening for me and I loved it.
Well, thank you for having me.
And you keep pushing me around, and I keep coming back. You really piss me off. You're really pissing me off. You really piss me off. The working hours leave